Hey guys, it's Bro You Whack, and Ramattra just got his gameplay trailer released today. We last saw him at the end of the Storm Rising campaign mission during the Archives event, but now he is going to be a playable hero with the release of Season 2 on December 6th. But today, we're going to be breaking down Ramattra's gameplay trailer. We're going to be looking at his weapons, his abilities, his ultimate, and everything that comes with this brand new Omnic tank hero. Because let me tell you, this is one of the most complex but sickest heroes that we've ever gotten in a long time in Overwatch 2. Now, the first thing I wanted to showcase was actually one of Ramattra's abilities that makes him very unique and special because this ability allows him to transform into two different forms, his Omnic Form and his Nemesis Form. Now, this transformation works very similar to how Hammond's transformation works, with the biggest caveat being that this transformation only lasts 8 seconds. So how this will work is that you start off in your default stage, which is your Omnic Form, and then as soon as you want to transform, you go into this big, brawly, beefy tank known as your Nemesis Form, where you get a whole different set of abilities. You're able to punch things, you're able to block things, and it only lasts for 8 seconds. And to make matters even worse, you have an 8-second cooldown before you can use that transformation again. Like, it's really the biggest tease where you get this souped up, basically on steroids tank to shrivel back up into his boring Omnic Form. So while Nemesis Form is definitely the more exciting form out of the two, and we will talk more about what abilities you get with this form, we gotta go in depth when talking about his Omnic Form because this is gonna be the default state and the majority state that you're gonna be in when playing this hero. So when you load into a game as Ramattra, the Omnic Form is going to be your default state that you started, and you're going to have a staff be your primary form of fire known as your Void Accelerator. This is a very unique staff where it fires streams of fast-moving particles at the enemy team where it has absolutely no fallout damage, and on top of that, if an enemy is up close to you and you hit their head, it can do crit damage. So it's kind of similar how Zarya's beam works if it just had an infinite range and if it could also do crit damage. And the other ability that you get exclusively in his Omnic Form is this thing called his Void Barrier. This is a shield that comes up from the ground and it stays stationary and it goes away up until, well, the shield gets destroyed or until the time runs out for the shield because it doesn't last forever. In comparison to Sigma's shield where it can last forever up until it gets destroyed, this has a time limit. This is almost as if Sigma's shield and Mei's Wall had a baby and it was named a Void Barrier. Now, those were the exclusive abilities to Omnic Form. There is another ability called his Ravenous Vortex that you get both with his Omnic and Nemesis Form, but I really want to talk about his Nemesis Form because I love this ability. It's so cool, and it's just really a feeding tank's dream, such as myself. So like I mentioned before, his transformation ability that unlocks his Nemesis Form lasts for 8 seconds, and it has an 8-second cooldown after you use it. But when you activate this ability, you turn it in this big brawly tank where you get extra armor, an extra set of giant fists for, well, fisting, and you get a different ability called Pummel and Block. So if we want to think of his abilities like his Omnic Form is SpongeBob and his Nemesis Form is SpongeBob with anchor arms where he just is able to have these giant fists and extra fists on top of it, that is the perfect way to compare the two. Like I mentioned before, you do get two exclusive moves in Nemesis Form. His first one is called Pummel, and I think you know how this works. You launch a short-range barrage of punches at the enemy team, and it works very similar like how Doomfist Punch works, but like as if you have multiple Doomfist punches because you're able to punch and pierce through enemies. So you're able to punch multiple targets with a single punch. I also forgot to mention you can punch the shields. Yeah, that's a thing. And just to extend this Mike Tyson-like ability, you do get another exclusive move that is called Block. This is another straightforward ability that basically works the exact same way that Doomfist works, with the biggest caveat being that it only blocks damage from the front. So if you shoot Ramattra at the back, pause, it doesn't reduce any damage. Now, there are two cool things about this ability. The first I already mentioned is that you're able to block damage, but you can block all sorts of damage. This includes something like a Hanzo Dragon. So if a Hanzo Dragon is coming to you as Ramattra and you block, you reduce the damage of those dragons. Finally, Hanzo's nerf! The other great part about Block is that it has no cooldown. You can use Block for the entire 8 seconds that you're in Nemesis Form, or you can use it for 4 seconds, 2 seconds, or you can just weave it in and out of you punching everybody. Like, this truly is a boxer's wet dream of a tank. Now, the only downside is that you do get slowed down as Ramattra, so there had to be some sort of nerf when using this ability. Now, those were Ramattra's two forms with their exclusive moves, but there is one ability that you get in both Omnic and Nemesis Form, and that is his Ravenous Vortex. Vortex ability. Now, this ability has Ramattra throw a ball of nanites. Basically, it's like damage particles down at the ground, and it expands into this giant vortex of like purple digital damage. And when you throw this ball at the ground and it activates, it slows enemies in this specific area. It also pulls them down to the ground, makes jumps basically useless. So if Winston tries to jump out, he's not going to be getting far, but it also deals damage if you're in the area. This ability is going to really be helpful when commanding a space, especially on like control maps, because the vortex can basically take the entirety of the point. But it's also going to be very helpful with Nemesis Form because it's going to be bringing people into a specific area and keeping them there for quite a bit of time to allow you to just punch people to death. Like, I love that Nemesis Form. I wish it was the other way around, where you're able to transform into Omnic Form and then Nemesis Form is the default state. Maybe there could be a change in the future, but we're not here to talk about nerfing or buffing Ramattra because it's not even out yet. We're here to talk next about his ultimate. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an ultimate that we have never seen before, and it goes by the name of Annihilation. So first and foremost, the reason why this is such a cool ultimate is that it automatically transforms you into Nemesis Form. But while Nemesis Form is Ramattra on steroids, his Annihilation ultimate grants him the ability to be on pre-workout and creatine as well, because you're gonna have this aura of damage around you as Ramattra. Very similar like how Zenyatta's Transcendence works, but instead of healing, you're gonna have this damage aura. But while you're in this state, you're not only gonna have the aura, but you're also gonna have beams that can latch onto enemies as long as you have line of sight of that enemy. And it's gonna deplete the health of those enemies, very similar like how Morisuck works. But hot gamer boys and e-girls everywhere, we haven't even gotten to the best part about Annihilation, because this ultimate technically doesn't end. As long as you have line of sight of the enemy and are attached to that enemy, the duration of Annihilation can go on for the entirety of the match, technically. Now, obviously, eventually the enemy team's gonna die, and as soon as you're no longer attached to the enemy, the ultimate's gonna go away, and then you're gonna go back to Omnic Form and be sad and depressed. But the fact that you know that you get an ultimate that can last for however long you can do damage to the enemy is something that, well, first of all, we've never seen in Overwatch before, but is something that is like the biggest skill cap ultimate of all time, because it's all dependent on how you are as a player, how good you are with Ramattra and Annihilation. Like, Ramattra, he is a sick tank. Now, I never played him, but I just feel like he's gonna be the tank for every type of Overwatch player. For the good players, because you have a high skill cap with Annihilation and just being able to know when to unlock your Nemesis Form, but it's also really great for low-ranked players because you have this exciting hero that can transform and just absolutely punch people and go AWOL on them. And the two different forms really allow any player to decide what kind of playstyle they want with a brand new hero Ramattra. Like, this truly is going to be one of the most exciting tanks to play in Overwatch 2, and I cannot wait to get my hands on him when he comes out with Season 2 on December 6th. But until then, I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. More Overwatch 2 videos to come, and bye.